أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة، إن إيتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا مرعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا منحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب، ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب، أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا منحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة.
Jazakallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Those brothers that are outside, جو حضرات اس وقت باہر لابی میں موجود ہیں، برائے کرم پلیز مسجد میں تشریف لے آئیں. مجلس کا آغاز ہونے والا ہے. ایک صلوات پڑھیے علی محمد و آل محمد. بار دیگر نعرے صلوات بر حبیب خدا ختم الانبیاء امام زمانہ بلند تر صلوات. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you know, tonight we commemorate the martyrdom of our seventh holy Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this ibadah here tonight. As always, we will start with the Urdu part of the program. We will have reciters who will recite in praise of the Imam, followed by our very own Maulana Sayyid Rizwan Rizvi, his speech who will be in English. So with that, ek salawat padhiya ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. سب سے پہلے میں دعوت دیتا ہوں جناب سید اظہر سے کہ وہ آئیں اور مولا کی بارگاہ میں اپنا کلام پیش کریں پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اور ایک بار اور جو حضرات اس وقت باہر لابی میں ہیں, those that are standing outside in the lobby, please kindly make your way inside the masjid as the Majlis has started. ایک بار اور جو حضرات اس وقت باہر ہیں برائے کرم پلیز مسجد میں آ جائیں. ایک صلوات پڑھیے علی محمد و آل محمد.
صلوات بہت بلند. سلام کی کچھ شعر پیش کروں گا مصاحب کے ساتھ. صلوات بہت بلند. اللہم ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. پل پہ بغداد کے پل پہ بغداد کے ہے جنازہ رکھا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. خون آنکھوں سے اپنے بہاتے ہوئے ہتھ کڑی بیڑیاں طوق پہنے ہوئے قید سجاد کی قید سجاد کی یاد کرتا ہوا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. جس کے 18 بیٹے جوان سال تھے اس کی میت کو مزدور لے کے چلے بین کرتی چلی بین کرتی چلی ساتھ میں سیدہ ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. اجنبی شہر ہے دور اہل وطن تیرے بابا کو دے کون غسل و کفن آؤ جلدی وطن آؤ جلدی وطن ہے سے امام رضا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. قید میں چل بسا قید میں چل بسا شاہ کون و مکان اب تو مظلوم کی کھول دو بیڑیاں تم نے چاہا تھا جو تم نے چاہا تھا جو لو وہی ہو گیا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. صبر کرنا ہے صغرا کے جیسے تجھے صبر کرنا ہے صغرا کے جیسے تجھے راستہ دیکھنا باپ کا چھوڑ دے جا کے معصومے جا کے معصومے قم سے کہہ دے ہوا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. پل پہ بغداد کے پل پہ بغداد کے ہے جنازہ رکھا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا. چل بات بھیجے بات
جزاک اللہ. یہ تھے سید اظہر بھائی. ایک صلوات اور علی محمد و آل محمد. سلام مرسی کے لیے میں دعوت دیتا ہوں جناب ہاشم رضا صاحب سے. کہ وہ آئیں اور مولا کی بارگاہ میں سو سلام مرثیہ پیش کریں بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اور محمد علیہ محمد صلوات. بار دیگر نعرہ صلوات. رائے خدا میں جب بھی چلا بے خودی کے ساتھ، رائے خدا میں جب بھی چلا بے خودی کے ساتھ، محسوس یہ ہوا کہ چلا علی کے ساتھ، محسوس یہ ہوا کہ چلا علی کے ساتھ. ممکن نہیں بغیر علی کے نبی ملے، ممکن نہیں بغیر علی کے نبی ملے. ہر ہر قدم پہ جب کہ علی تھے نبی کے ساتھ، راہ خدا میں محمد علیہ محمد صلوات. چرخ کی جان چرخ کی جانب چلا جس دم غبار کاز میں، چرخ کی جانب چلا جس دم غبار کاز میں، آسمان ہونے لگا خود بھی نثار کاز میں، چرخ کی جانب چلا جس دم غبار کاز میں. یہ تقی موسیٰ کاظم کے روضے کاش دل کو رہتا ہے ہمیشہ انتظار کاظ میں، چرخ کی جانب چلاؤ جس دم غبار کا. ایک ہے باب الحوائج، ایک جواد عیب، دل انہی دونوں کے باعث ہے نثار کاظ میں، چرخ کی جانب چلاؤ جس دم غبار کا مٹ گئے بغداد کے شاہوں کے سارے تخت و تاج، پھر بھی باقی ہے جہاں میں اقتدار باز میں چرخ کی جانب چلا اس دم غبار باز، کل تلاوار جنازے آج ہے قبر مزار، کیسا گلشن بن گیا ہے خارزار کا، کیسا گلشن بن گیا ہے خارزار کا، میں چرخ کی جانب چلا غار کا، آسمان نے لگا خود بے نثار کاز میں چرخ کی جانب، محمد علیہ محمد صلوات فاتحہ۔ مرضی گر نعرہ صلوات
صلی اللہ محمد۔
زندان غم تھا موسی کاظم کے واسطے، تازہ ستم تھا موسی کاظم کے واسطے، آرام کام تھا موسی قاسم کے واسطے، بے حد علم تھا موسی کاظم کے واسطے، بے حد علم تھا موسی کاظم کے واسطے، چھٹ کر پیدر سے عامل رنجوں میں آن رہے، پابند حکم حق امام زبان، پابند حکم حق امام زمان، اے مومنوں جہاں کاظم گزر، مظلوم قید خانے کو ویران کر، حیدر کے پاس وارث خیر البشر گئے، بغداد میں مدینے کے سلطان مر، بغداد میں مدینے کے سلطان مر، ساما تھا کیا نبی کے یگانے کے واسطے، مزدور آئے لاش اٹھانے کے واسطے، مزدور آئے لاش اٹھانے کے واسطے، دریا کے پاس تھا جو سلیمان کا محل، نکلا وہ اپنے قصر سے غل سن کے بر، پوچھا کیا ہے خلق نے کے حکم پر عمل، کیسا ہے شور جس سے کہ راحت میں ہے، کیسا ہے شور جس سے کہ راحت میں ہے، بولے غلام اہل جفا غلم چاہتے ہیں، زندہ سے لاش موسیٰ کاظم کی لاش، زندہ سے لاش موسیٰ کاظم کی لاش، سن کر صدا گھروں سے چلے لوگ سب، ماتم سے بے دیار کے حاصل کیا، بغداد میں قریش کا مدفن تھا جس لائے وہاں جنازہ جان شاہ، لائے وہاں جنازہ جان شہ سامان غسل سید ابرار ہو گیا آیا کفن بازار بھی تیار ہو آیا کفن بازار بھی تیار ہو حاضر رہے بے در کے جنازے پیشا در پردہ کل امور بجا لائے شک جعفر کا چاند ہو گیا پنہات مغموم مومنی ہوئے بشاش مغموم مومنی ہوئے بشاش صد ہے بزور شہ والا مزار یثرب میں سب تھے بیٹھے ہوئے انتظار یثرب میں سب تھے بیٹھے ہوئے انتظار زندان غم تھا موسی کاظم کے واسطے محمد والے محمد صلی اللہ
جزاک اللہ. یہ تھے جناب ہاشم رضا صاحب. ہمارے ہاشم انکل اور سید اظہر بھائی کی صحت و سلامتی کے لیے ایک صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد. اس سے پہلے کہ ہم آگے بڑھیں, let us recognize the sponsors for tonight's Majlis. They are our brother Ghulam Haidar Kundi, for his marhumin, for your marhumin, and for those that have no one to recite for them a Surah Fatiha. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, اللہ تعالیٰ سے دعا کرتے ہیں کہ ان کی توفیقات میں اضافہ فرمائے اور مرحومین کے درجات بلند کرے. ساتھ ساتھ میں ایک دعائے صحت کی درخواست ہے. ہمارے کمیونٹی ممبر جو آپ جانتے ہیں, ہمارے ایک سید عرفان رضا, جو اس وقت ہاسپٹل میں ہیں. He had a heart attack yesterday. He is in critical care unit, so he is in need of our prayers. So let us recite this this verse from Surah Naml 5 times. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. And with that, I would like to request our very own Maulana Sayyid Rizwan Rizvi to come up and to address tonight's Majlis. Please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And my dear brothers, if you can kindly come up just a little bit, thank you so much as always. And as you come up, one more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم اللہ من قرأ سورة الفاتحہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. Please recite with me again 5 times Amma Yuji for Brother Irfan Raza as well as Brother Nisar Karmali, who is undergoing heart surgery tomorrow. Let us keep them all in our du'as and prayers. Let's recite Amma Yujib again 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض إله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Condolences to all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, especially Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, as well as our Maraje on this sad occasion upon which we commemorate the Shahadat of our seventh Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. Eve of 25th of Rajab in the year 183. On this day is when the Shahadat of Imam took place. Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, his birth is on the 7th day of Safar in the year 128. And Imam lived in a very difficult era as far as the rule of the Abbasids is concerned. Imam's life can be divided into two phases. The first phase of Imam's life is when he spends 20 years under the imamat of his father, our sixth Imam, until the year 148. And after that, Imam's reign and his imamat begins until his shahadat in the year 183. And Imam saw the different cruel rulers of the Abbasids family. Imam, of course, had seen the second ruler after Safa, Mansur Dawaniqi, in the time of our sixth Imam. Although when Imam assumed the responsibilities of imamat, Mansur, who lived for another 9 years after the Shahadat of our sixth Imam, up until the year 157, he was busy constructing the city of Baghdad. So he didn't pay much attention to Imam, and that gave Imam enough time to continue the work, which of course all the Imams are sent to do. After his demise, the rulership goes to his son Mahdi, and then after Mahdi it goes to his son Hadi, and after Hadi it goes to Harun al-Rashid. Even Mahdi and Hadi were not didn't have the opportunity to make it difficult upon Imam, but Although even in the time of Hadi, Imam was taken to Basra and Imam spent a year in prison. But when he realized that Imam is not what he thought he was, and he saw the akhlaq of Imam, he had no choice but to let go of Imam. But Harun, who saw this opportunity, and he saw the popularity of Imam, coupled with other elements as well. One of the elements that led to Harun's cruelty toward Imam, believe it or not, mentioned in the books of history, is the role that was played by Muhammad ibn Ismail. Who is this Muhammad ibn Ismail? We all know Ismail is son of sixth Imam. You have the firqa of Ismailiyah. Although Ismail himself was a very pious man, people thought that he would be the Imam after sixth Imam. But unfortunately, he passed away in the lifetime of Imam, sixth Imam. And the Imamat was not based on the closeness or the age. Age had never been the criteria of Imamat. Rather, it was the ilm and the taqwa for which our seventh Imam was already understood from the beginning, when the time when Rasulullah had announced the names of Aimma and with their specific titles. Therefore, this Muhammad ibn Ismail, who always had this grudge, and he wanted, and he had some following as well, he felt that Imam usurped his right of Imamat. That's what he thought. But he would meet Imam in a very family, oriented manner, not showing his animosity. In fact, when Harun wanted to gain more information about Imam, he spoke to one of his, governors and his acquaintances by the name of Yahya Barmki. He said, who would be the best to inform us about Musa al-Kadhim? He named Muhammad. He said, bring Muhammad to Baghdad. When Muhammad was informed that Khalifa Waqt is calling you to Baghdad, he was already feeling above the world. Now Khalifa is calling me, meaning I'm something. But he didn't have the means to travel, so what does he do? He comes to the door of Imam al-Kadhim. Imam knows what his intentions are. He said, I want to go because of my debts. I'm a makruz, and I think if I go to Baghdad, I'll be able to make a better life, this and that. While I'm going, I want you to do nasihat to me. Imam gave only one nasihat to him. Do not be the reason of my killing and the killing of my children. Right away, he was offended. He's like, here I'm asking you for nasihat, and you're telling me that I'm going to be responsible for your killing and the killing of your children? Eventually, he left. Imam sent him the money that he needed to travel. He comes to Baghdad. He meets Harun, who asks him about seventh Imam. This is where he goes beyond what was truth. He says, you think that you're the only one who's governing the Islamic State? No, Musa al-Kadhim is governing it in Medina. And he's getting money from many places. He's got his own empire parallel to yours. That led to Harun becoming, already who had this grudge against Imam, having even more of a grudge towards him. And of course, then Harun makes his trip to Mecca for the performance of Hajj. And he runs into Imam, who was also performing Hajj at that time. And then that's where the silsila of Imam being imprisoned begins. Some riwayat mention that Imam spent close to 14 years, different spans, sometime for a year, sometime for a couple of years, sometime for less, sometime for more, but all together 14 years in the prison. If you look at the age of Imam, 128 till 83, 55 years. Imam's own imamat is for 35 years, minus the 14 from it that he spent in the prison. But this is where we find the character, someone who attained the title of being Kadhim. I chose this ayat, I've recited this ayat before for you as well. This ayat begins with al-Ladhina. Whenever a verse begins with al-Ladhina, it tells us that there is someone which is being referred to in the previous ayat. What does the ayat say? Al-Ladhina, those yunfiquna fi sarra'i, who spend in ease, wad-dharra'i, and in adversity, wal-kadhimin al-ghayz, those who suppress their angers, wal-afina 'anil nas, those who forgive the people, wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. And indeed Allah loves those who are the doers of righteousness, muhsinin. Who are these alladhina? You look at the ayat number 133 of Ali Imran. This is 134 of Ali Imran. You look at 133 of Ali Imran. 133 of Ali Imran concludes with the word muttaqeen. 134 begins with alladhina. So, who is this alladhina describing? Muttaqeen. Who are the muttaqeen? Muttaqeen are those who spend in the way of Allah. That's their first condition. But guess what? If you're looking at step by step, the first step of the attributes of muttaqeen is that they spend. That is not the final step. They have a long way to go. That is the bare minimum. So when you give out of your goodness, that is the first step that you're at. And when you are unable to give, that means you haven't even stepped at the first step yet, before you can go to the second and the third and the fourth step that is mentioned in this ayat. Another point worth mentioning about this ayat number 134 of Ali Imran, is that in Quran there's a rule of thumb, qaida kulli, which is that whenever there's a discussion on riba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away talks about infaq. So if you read ayat number 132, it talks about riba. It talks about usury, talks about interest and interest-related transactions, which we've got to be very careful, especially in this part of the world. Inshallah, one day in Jummah khutbah, I'll address that. That how we sometime get involved in usury and interest-based transactions. With non-Muslims, it's permissible to receive, but again, giving, and all those other rules which are to be discussed, inshallah, someday. But the concept of riba is mentioned. Where does riba and usury come from? With the mindset of greed. Whenever the mindset of greed comes about, more, and when a person eyes on someone else's wealth, that's where usury and riba comes. To counter the usury and riba, which has to do with greed of insan, lalach, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you an alternative, which is what? Infaq. In the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said when you spend in the world and someone is promising you 5% or 10%, but if you spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sab'a sanabil or sab'a mi'a, Allah is promising what? 7-fold or 700-fold. Why? Your riba is something yamhullah, Allah has erased. Sadaqat is something yurbis sadaqat, Allah raises and gives you profit as far as your sadaqat are concerned. So He's giving you an alternative. Don't we always learn this? Psychologists tell you as well, when you're telling your children to stop doing something that you don't want them doing. If the worst thing is you tell them not to do it, but then you don't give them an alternative. Always provide an alternative so that what they're leaving behind, there's something else that they can get indulged into. You don't want them using a screen, give them an alternative to that screen so that they can be doing that. Allah, after mentioning how riba is forbidden in Islam, gives you an alternative. Infaq, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then infaq is not something which you're giving from your wealth. Not once does Allah say in Quran, give from what belongs to you. What does He say? وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Give from that which we have given to you. Not give from something which you consider is yours. Nothing is yours to begin with. Give from that which we have bestowed upon you. What's the difficulty in that? And then comes this ayat. So that's one point about it. How wherever there's a discussion on usury or interest, there's always a discussion on infaq to counter that. But فَالسَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. What is the philosophy of فَالسَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ? Sarra comes from yusr, meaning what? At ease. Dharra means difficulty, adversity. Allah wants you to give regardless of your situation. It's never about the quantity, it's about the spirit of giving. You should develop a ruhiyah, a spirit in you. That's why many of the mufassirin, they translate the word sarra and dharra as an addiction. I gave this example. Again, it may not be the best of the examples, but bear with it. Someone who is addicted to smoking, right? They don't see if they are going through a rough patch in their life or they're at ease. Smoking is something they'll do, regardless of their financial situation. Because why? Because they become mudmin, they become addicted to it. That addiction is not going to suffer because their finances are suffering. Somehow they'll manage to smoke. Quran here is telling us infaq should become your addiction. فِالسَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. Regardless of your financial situation, you should be always in the spirit of giving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what is being mentioned over here. Whether it's as ease or it is in the times of difficulty. So that's the first step for muttaqeen to do what? Give. What is the second step for muttaqeen? وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. Muttaqeen are those who do kazm ghayz. What is kazm? In Arabic, this water skin, when they used to tie a knot around the water skin, why would they tie a knot? So that water doesn't spill out. In the desert of Arabia, water was already scarce. And when you're carrying this water, you don't want any water to be lost. So what would they do? They would tie a knot or tie a rope around the cap. They didn't have a cap, so they'll tie a rope around it. The tighter the rope, the less the water will be lost. This tightening of the rope around the water skin was called kazumul qirba. Tying this water skin. You don't want any of the water to be lost. Qirba is the water skin. That's why one of the titles of Hazrat Abul Fadl Abbas, Qamar Bani Hashim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, is Abul Qirba, the father of the Mashkiza. So that's what Kazmul Qirba is. But this Kazm is of two types. Where some places this Kazm is due to your huzn and your grief that you suppress it. For example, when we read in the ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, that when Allah Yusuf sent his shirt to him, what had happened to Hazrat Yusuf? وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. That his eyes had become white. He had gone blind. وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. Because of what? This anger? Because of this kazm that he had? Because the ayat of Quran over here says what? وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. Those who suppress their ghaiz. Ghaiz is this ghazab, this anger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way people did not want one water to be dropped out, Allah does not want insan who is in the state of anger to anything come out of his mouth. This is how you suppress this anger. This is how you control that anger. Why? Anger is what? Anger is compared with fire. Anger is compared with flames coming out of your mouth. And we all get angry at one thing or another. In fact, anger is of two types. One anger is something which is madhmoom. One anger is something which is mamduh. That you should have anger at certain places. When it's defy muqaddas, you should have this anger. But now when you're able to show your restraint and you still show your anger, that is when it is madhmoom and there's mudhammat for it. Nonetheless, kadhumul ghaiz is being mentioned over here as the second step for whom? Those who are muttaqeen. Let me go quickly through this ayah so I can get to Imam. Third thing which mentions is what? Wal afina anin nas. So when we leave this gathering tonight, at least this ayat number 134 of Al Imran is completely understood, and we have looked thoroughly as far as the tafsir of this ayat is concerned, and I'll find out how much you are interested in it with the sound of your salawat. You seem pretty interested in it, inshallah. Wal afina anin nas. Quickly. That these are the people who do what? Who do afu. Darguzar. Forgive. Forgive who? The people. Afin. I'm sure you've heard this word many times. One of the names of Allah is also afu. And when you're doing your salatul layl, what do you say? Al-afu. 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 We have the word mu'afi from it as well. And afwa darguzar used in Farsi. But we know what this af means, meaning to forgive someone. But the word af literally means that it is the opposite of qisas. What is qisas? Qisas is retribution. When someone commits a crime, what is to be done? Qisas, retribution. Qisas comes from qassa, which means to follow, which means to investigate, which means to see what this person has done. The opposite of investigation is af. Meaning what? You don't investigate. You've forgiven this person, you've closed the chapter. Nothing should follow after that. That's what the literal meaning of the word afu is. Many of us have had people in our lives which we may have forgiven, but we did not completely close the chapter. And tell you why. Next time we see that person in the gathering, we'll still be mad at them. Because what they had done, I might have forgiven this person. Someone usurped my right, then came and asked for forgiveness. I think, I'll forgive you. No more. Don't worry about it. But my grudge is still there. Next time I run into this person, cold shoulder. I'm not meeting them properly. I'm not treating them properly. And people can see my way and behaving with that person. When you do af, the way Allah wants you to do af, is that there's no investigation after that. The chapter is closed. That is the third step for those who are muttaqeen. So we're following. The first step is what? Those who spend in the way of Allah at ease or difficulty. What is the second step? Kazumul ghaiz. They suppress their anger. What is the third step? Afina an nas. They forgive the people. You know what? There's another step that is above that. Once you have forgiven someone, it is not a bad idea to go ahead and do ihsan to that person as well. Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. The story of our seventh Imam is, or it is related to our fourth Imam as well, that this Kaniz or the servant was serving Imam, helping Imam wash his head or something, and the vessel in which the water was fell and hurt Imam. Imam looked at her or him, and that person could see, that Imam was not amused by him dropping that tasla on top of the head of Imam. Right away, this man recited the ayat of Quran. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. Imam said, I suppressed my anger. He said, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Imam said, I forgave you. He said, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Imam said, from now on, you are a free man. This is where person who had done something and needed to be punished recited this ayat. Imam said, yes, I suppressed my anger. I'm not angry at you. Not only that I'm not angry at you, I forgive you as well. Not only that I forgive you, ihsan on top of that is that you are a free person and you're free to go if you want. This is the sifat that is found in Ma'asumin alayhimus salatu wassalam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There was a man in Medina who was known for speaking ill against Imam Musa al-Kadhim, as well as Amirul Mu'mineen. Today, if you hear someone bad-mouthing our Masumin, how do you feel? Similarly, the followers of Imam were enraged by that. And they said, Maula, give us the permission to go ahead and respond. Imam said, no, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Imam one day goes to him, and Imam does ihsan to that person. He speaks to him. Look at the power of speaking. Sometimes all people need is your ears. A lot of time, these workers who are taking care of, those who are in need of just someone to just be there to listen to them. Mental health is an issue. And when it comes to a lot of this stress and people going through different distresses and depression, what do they need? They just need 2 ears. They just want someone to be there, listen to what they have to say. Hear it out. In fact, in our chaplaincy, the course that I had taken for police chaplaincy, this is one of the things that they taught us. You're there just to listen. You don't even have to speak, which actually is the complete manifestation of kalam of Imam, which says, Kunu du'atan linnase bighayri alsinatikum. Guide people to the right path without using your tongue. Your behavior is the biggest of the da'wat toward the people. Imam with his behavior, with a little bit of the help to this individual who was, swearing at Imam and swearing at Amirul Mu'mineen, changed his heart. Next time when Imam was entering the masjid, this man who was known for always speaking ill against Imam and his forefathers was sitting and praising Imam. People were surprised. What happened to you overnight? You were known for this bad mouthing, and all of a sudden this change in your character is that Allah knows where to place his risalat, and this person is not an ordinary person. This is indeed Imam of the Ummah and Imam of the time. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam was known for many titles. One of the titles of Imam was Abd Saleh as well. And that could be because of the extensive ibadat that Imam performed. A few years ago, you and I witnessed one of the phenomena that none of us, or even many of our forefathers, had ever witnessed. And that was Corona. And how everything was a shutdown. You couldn't even come to your masajid, your imam bargas, the place of your worship. You couldn't gather in a gathering like this. What did it teach you? It taught us the value of this gathering. If it didn't teach us anything, what did it teach us? It taught us the value of this gathering, this Majlis-e-Ali. And the most that people were missing was the ability to commemorate and to celebrate the Shahadat and the Wiladat of Ahlul Bayt. The worst upon them was they couldn't get to have a Majlis in this way for the Ashra Muharram. It was very tough for many people. And they were looking for any opportunity where they can gather and sit together and to go ahead and have a Majlis-e-Ali. So sometimes when the opportunities are taken away, privileges are withdrawn, what happens? Once they're given back, you understand their value and their worth. When you have it, you take it for granted. When we have this life, we take it for granted. The other day I said what? Life is the biggest favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You might say, no, Maulana, the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt is the biggest favor. True. But if you don't have this life, then you don't get to the wilayat. So life then becomes what? The biggest favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're alive, then you can go ahead and have this life which is meaningful, that you are the follower and the believer and you believe in the wilayat of Masumin. But when this life is taken away, you don't realize the worth of it only when it's taken away from you. But it's too late then. Why? Because Quran says what? رَبِّ ارْجُعُونِي لَعَلِّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا فِيمَا تَرَكْتُ. You only get one life. There isn't a second opportunity here. That you'll come back again, reincarnation in some sort or whatever, and you'll be able to do salihat. No. That's just one opportunity you have. So we can't wait for this life and take it for granted. Corona taught you one thing, when something was taken away from you and now that is returned back to you second time, you should understand and value that. This life of yours. Many who were with us, they're no longer with us. We lost them. That should teach you the valuable lesson of this tragedy. What am I trying to draw into? Imam did not spend few months in prison. Few years in prison. 14 years is mentioned. The other day it was in news, a man spent 25 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. I'm sure you saw it in the news. Here, Imam spent 14 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. It's not 1 or 2 days, it's not 1 or 2 months, it's 14 years. You know what Imam responded? Imam responded by saying, oh Allah, I ask you to give me faraghat so I can worship you better, and indeed you provided me with that. This prison is not coming down to me as a punishment. Rather, this imprisonment I'm looking at is as a value for me that I'm able to do your ibadat without any distraction. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do your ibadat the way I am able to do now. That even to the extent that Harun, when he comes and he sees from the window in the prison that Imam was in, he said, who is this? Or what is this? I just see a chadar or a cloak. He said, no, that's Musa al-Kadhim. He's in the state of sajda. Sindhi ibn Shahiq, whose prison Imam was martyred, his sister says that I noticed when Imam was in the prison of my brother, I noticed that this man was constantly in the state of ibadat. All night long, he will stand up, do qiyam, and all day long he was in sajda. That's how Imam spent it. And don't think this was a very, a prison where Imam had all the luxuries and the amenities available to him. Some of the riwayat mention that this prison was so dark and gloomy that Imam could not even stand up straight. That kind of prison. Where you can't even see a couple of feet ahead of you. You can't even stand properly in it. That type of prison. And to be in that and still be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just imagine that. So with that said, these lives of Masumin are there for what? Are there for us to derive these lessons from it and then in return implement it into our lives. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Many other aspects of Imam's life, as well as this beautiful dua that Imam left behind for us. Many people don't even know that this dua belongs to 7th Imam. You recite Joshan Kabir in the month of Ramadan. There's another dua called Joshan As-Saghir associated to our 7th Imam. And in fact, some mention that this dua emerged while Imam was in prison because of the words that Imam speaks about. Imam begins and talks about Kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha. How many of your servants, O Allah, who go into the daytime or day in and day night are suffering and struggling and going through persecution. Don't have a proper bed to sleep on. who are constantly engulfed with a war, as we can see today, Gaza is going through the war. And then Imam says, oh Allah, I am not going through any of those difficulties, therefore I am thankful for your bounties. And he uses the word shakirin wa ala as well, wa ni'maika wa alaika, 2 words that Imam uses. That I'm thankful and I'm thankful again for all that you have given to me. This dua, I urge you, if you haven't understood this dua, go read the segments of this dua. 14 times Imam mentions this thing, Allahumma, oh my Rabb, kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha, and so on and so forth. And then Imam concludes by saying, oh Allah, thank you. Graciousness, thankful and grateful that you have not engulfed me into all of these troubles and problems. I said, Maula, how can you say that? If there is someone who is suffering, it is your Zat. If Imam didn't do anything, which of course he did a great deal, the 2 biggest favors of Imams to us, which we are still thankful to him, is 2 of his kids. One is Bibi Masuma Qum, Salamullah alayha, in the city of Qum, and his son Gharibatus, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. The barakat of these 2 individuals, barakat of this lady who spent merely 17 days in the city of Qum. Now the city of Qum becomes the center of Islamic studies, where you receive, and these maraji come out of that center of studies. It is the wujud of mere 17 days in that city turned that city into the Mecca of Islamic studies. And of course, Imam Raza's wujud in Mashhad, that entire country is marhoon and minnat of the wujud of Imam Raza, that Imam put it on the map, in other words. Right? But I look at Imam Raza, and I've said it before. We read in his ziyarat, Ya Gharib al-Ghuraba. But when you look at the shrine of Imam, when you look at the haram of Imam, you say, Maula, where is this ghurabat that you're referring to? You're Shahi Khurasan. It's very difficult to call you Gharib al-Ghuraba. You were Gharib al-Ghuraba at that time, but now you're Shahi Khurasan. When we look at the magnanimity of the shrine of Imam Raza alayhi salatu wasalam. Imam Musa al-Kadhim, he taught us many lessons to us. One riwayat, and then inshallah rub them aside. That a lot of time people say something and it really affects us. The words of people carry meaning. Now even the shair has said that Jarahatu Sinan la yaltama laha. That those wounds that you receive from the tongue of the people, Jarahatul Lisan la yaltam. Those jirahat, those wounds that are received by the tongues of the people, haunting, there's no cure for that. They remain forever. Ma jarahas sinan, that which is caused by the arrows, that wound might heal one day. I'm forgetting the words of it, but jarahatul sinan and jarahatul lisan, these are the 2 that you can remember. The wounds that are caused by an arrow, they can heal one day. Or a sword, they can heal one day. But the wounds that are caused by someone's tongue, they seldom heal. They remain. So be very careful when you speak to someone, especially in a negative tone. So people's words do affect us. But Imam gave us a remedy. He said, if someone tells you that you have a pearl in your hand, but in reality you're actually holding a walnut, it's not going to change the reality. And if there's a pearl in your hand and someone says, no, you don't have a pearl, you're actually holding a walnut, it's not going to change the reality. Reality is with you. What you're holding in your arms, what you're holding in your hand, you know it better, that person does not know it. So don't let the words of the people affect you when they are wrong about it. This is one of the important lessons that Imam teaches us, and it could help us in many areas of our life, whether it comes to our relationships when it comes to our relationships with our family, our spouses, our children, our in-laws, or when it comes to our relationship with our co-workers. The reality is what is with you. That does not change. If someone says you are so-and-so, you're not so-and-so. Don't take effect of that. But what can you do? We as humans, we get affected right away when people use these taunting words. So Imam tells you how the reality should be dealt with. Imam ﷺ spent all these years in prison, in and out of prison. His daughter, who was born in the year 173, Imam Shahadat is in the year 183. She's merely 10 years old, Bibi Masum Qum, at the time of the Shahadat of Imam Musa al-Kadhim. But, you know the barakat of this girl, this lady, she's only less than 10 years old, while Imam is alive, of course. Imam was away. People came and asked Imam questions. Imam was not there. This lady said, what are your questions? Give it to me. And come back in the afternoon and take it. They said, we had come from long distance. We had all these questions. And Imam is not here. She said, that's okay. You've come to the house of Imamat. You'll get your answers. She gives all the answers. They come back. They collect the answers. They were thankful. And as they were leaving, they run into Imam. They say, Imam, we came and we wanted to ask you some questions, but alhamdulillah, we got the answers from your house. Your daughter was able to provide these answers. Imam looked at the answers and Imam kissed it and he says, may her father be sacrificed on her. This is not an ordinary person who's saying, may my life be sacrificed on so-and-so. This is Imam of the time who's using and saying, may my life be sacrificed for my daughter, Masuma Qum Salamullah Alayha, who's able to give such responses. And the barakat at that very tender age, where she was able to do kasb ilm from her father and from her brother. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Harun realizes that surveillance is not going to cut it. Eventually he'll have to do something to keep Imam in his control. Although Imam ﷺ had done enough, he had provided for the Shi'as. One of the concepts that came out in the time of Imam is the concept of taqiyyah, dissimulation. And you all know about Ali ibn Yaqeen, whom Imam had installed as his worker in the court of Harun, so that what? So that Imam can keep an eye on Harun and at the same time can continue to provide to those who are his followers. It was such a difficult time, taqiyya and dissimulation, that people, Imam told them not to come and visit me because your lives could be in danger. That's when a lot of people would, even with the wujud of Imam, would not be able to see him. Just imagine how difficult that would be. Ali ibn Yaqeen was the same way. But look at how Imam's ilm always kept him safe. A lot of people got suspicious about Ali ibn Yaqeen, saying, oh, Harun, this guy Ali, you trust him so much, he's actually an agent of Imam. He said, how so? He said, he prays the way Rafidah pray. Harun said, let's spy on him. I don't believe you, let's go ahead and see. Few days before that, Imam had told Ali, from now on, pray the way Ahl Sunnah pray. Pray the way the madhab of the hukumat wants you to pray. And do the wudu the same way. Ali ibn Yaqeen, without any chun or chara, why Imam? What's going on? What is the reason? He starts doing it. This is where we need to understand that we don't question what Quran is telling us. We don't question what Masoom has asked us to do. We accepted sam'an wa ta'atan without questioning their authority. You can't say, I believe 90% of Quran, but 10% of Quran, I don't really believe in. No, either you believe 100% of it or you don't believe in it. I believe in the ahkam of Islam to the extent that makes sense to me, but the ones that don't make sense to me, I'm not going to believe in that. No, you have to be what? Muti'e amre Maula. Muti, obedient to the amr of Maula. And that is when you have the ability. I'll give you the example of Qamar Bani Hashim. Abul Fadl Abbas is someone known for his bravery and valor. What does he want to do in Karbala? He wants to go to the battlefield. He's not timid, he's not shy, he wants to go. But beyond his bravery and valor, he's first Muti Amr Maula. He's Tabi Amr Maula. Imam Hussain says to him, "Oh Abbas, go get the water." He didn't say, "Oh, why Maula? I want to go to the battlefield. I can do better over there than going." This is where you have the ability to do something, yet you suppress it. That's also Kazmi Ghaiz. You have the ability to take revenge, but you suppress it. That requires a skill. At one point, I can't even do anything. So I said, might as well just walk away. But when I'm able to do something and then I suppress my anger, that really requires a skill. Imam ﷺ told Ali ibn Yaqin, don't worship the way we worship for a few days. He didn't question Imam. He started worshiping that way. The spies of Harun saw him praying the way Ahl Sunnah pray. They said, see, you were wrong. He is one of us. And after a few days, they said, no. He's actually an agent of Imam. Everything you give it to him, O Harun, as far as the wealth and the khulla is concerned, he gives it to Imam right away. Again, Harun was skeptical, so let's spy on him. Ali ibn Yaqin, whenever he would receive something from Harun, he would right away deliver it to Imam. Imam, this is your amanat. When he delivered this time, Imam said, oh, keep it with you for a few more days. We don't need it right now. When they came and searched his house, what did they find? Everything was still there. Again, they were proven wrong. So this is what Imam-e-Waqt does. Trust in your Imam-e-Waqt, who's amongst us, who's alive. You believe in his wujud and his existence. Whenever you would be in trouble, all you gotta say, Ya Aba Saleh Adirikni, and you will find Imam-e-Zamana next to you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam's life is full of tragedies. After moving from one prison to another, Imam is eventually sent to the prison of Sindi ibn Shahik. This cruel man who was already known for his cruelty does not make it easy upon Imam. As it is, the prison was very difficult and suffocating. Yet he makes it even more difficult upon Imam. With his words, with his taunts, and with other things that he does as far as the torture is concerned of him. All the other ones that Imam was sent to, they were impressed with Imam's kirdar and character, but this man was evil, did not budge, continued to make it difficult and difficult upon Imam. And that's when Harun sends this poison to him, makes him eat this fruit by consuming it. And Harun tells Sindi that make sure that he eats enough. Imam takes a few and then Imam stops. He says, eat more. Imam says to Sindi ibn Shaykh that which you wanted to achieve, that you were mamur by Harun, you have achieved that. I don't need to eat more than what I have already eaten. You wanted to kill me? That'll happen eventually. 3 days later, Imam leaves this world. He brings in people to look at Imam, to show to them the world, the scholars and the shurafa of the land, to come and see and witness that we did not torture Imam ﷺ. He died naturally, and his death is natural, tabi'i. It is mentioned in some riwayat that Imam spoke at that moment, says, qatlan, qatlan, qatlan. No, my death is not. It's not tabi'i. I have been killed, I've been killed, I've been killed. Let me take you back. Whenever the janazah of Ahl Bayt is brought out, how this ummah has dealt with. The first janazah that came out of Ma'asumeen was the janazah of Rasulullah. Rasulullah had this empire from east to west, all of these Muslimin. What do? there were only a handful of people that were there at the present at the janazah of the Rais of this madhab, Khatamul Anbiya, Sayyidul Mursaleen. The second janazah, which is 75 days after the demise of Rasulullah, is the daughter of Rasulullah. Handful of people are present, and in the dark of the night, the janazah is taken out. 70 graves are dug so that people don't desecrate the grave of Fatimatul Zahra. The third janazah is the janazah of Amirul Mu'mineen himself, where there are only two people, Hassan and Hussein, who are carrying the janazah of their father. They were told that there will be malaika taking you where they have to go. These were the janazahs that were taken care by the Ahlul Bayt, for Ahlul Bayt. But when for the first time the community was involved, when Imam Hassan Mushtaba passed away and his Shahadat happened, janazah was taken out. The ummah, what do? They throw arrows and shoot arrows at the janazah of Imam Hassan Mushtaba. Then it starts to bleed and it is brought back. And then you want to know the janazah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, there was no janazah. Imam Hussein's body laid in the plains of Karbala for 3 days. And then there were horses that were trampling the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada. No one was there to bury Hussein. Here come to Baghdad. Imam Musa al-Kadhim passes away. His taboot is sitting on the Jasr of Baghdad for 3 days. The Mazdur of this ummah, they bring out the janazah of Imam. And then people are calling, this is the Imam of Rafidah. No, this is the Imam of the Rafidah. Until Suleiman comes, realizes whose janazah it is. And then eventually they pick up the janazah of Imam. Once they pick up the janazah, the entire city of Baghdad comes together. The way you saw in the pictures today, how there was a janazah and the Majlis for the Shahadat of Musa al-Kadhim in Kadhimiyya. Millions of people were there. I said, Maula, at least after 3 days there were people to lift your coffin. They were there to lift your casket. But come to Karbala, La yawma kayawmika ya Aba Abdullah. Matam Hussein.
अस्सलाम अलैका या मुसी-ए-काज़िम, अस्सलाम अलैका या मुसी-ए-काज़िम, सैयदी मौला, सैयदी मौला, सैयदी मौला, यब्न ज़हरा या मूसा बिने जाफर, यब्न ज़हरा या मूसा बिने जाफर, सैयदी मौला, सैयदी मौला, कैसा कैदी है कि मरने पे भी आज़ाद नहीं, कैसी गुर्बत है जनाजे पे भी फरियाद नहीं, मेरे मौला पे हुई कौन सी बेदाद नहीं, हाय नजदीक कोई रोने को औलाद नहीं, बेकसो तन्हा या मूसा बिने जाफर, यब्न ज़हरा या मूसा बिने जाफर, सैयदी मौला, सैयदी मौला, सैयदी मौला, یا ابن الزہرا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر یا ابن الزہرا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر سیدی مولا قید میں 14 برس کیسے گزارے ہوں گے صورت اشک مسلح پہ ستارے ہوں گے توق زنجیر بھلا کس نے اتارے ہوں گے غمزدہ عرش پہ قرآن کے پارے ہوں گے کیسے دوں پرسا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر یا ابن الزہرا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر سیدی قید تنہائی تھی اور موسی کاظم مولا قید تنہائی تھی اور موسی کاظم مولا ختم بینائی تھی اور موسی کاظم مولا ستم آرائی تھی اور موسی کاظم مولا موت گھبرائی تھی اور موسی کاظم مولا وقت کڑا تھا موسیٰ بن جعفر یا ابن الزہرا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر سیدی کثرت سجدہ سے گٹھری سا بدن آپ کا تھا لوگ کہتے تھے مسلح پہ ہے کپڑا سا پڑا پر قضا ہو نہ سکا وقت شہادت سجدہ دم بدم آتی رہی عرش سے آواز خدا دیر نہ کروا نہ موسیٰ بن جعفر یا ابن الزہرا روتے رہتے تھے شہ کرب و بلا کے غم میں روتے رہتے تھے شہ کرب و بلا کے غم میں بندگی سے ہوئے فارغ تو رہے ماتم میں اکبر و قاسم و عباس تھے چشمے اکبر و قاسم و عباس تھے چشمے پن میں سانس کی ڈوریاں ٹوٹی ہیں اسی عالم میں یا میرے مولا یا موسیٰ بن سیدی مولا حاکم وقت نے کیسا یہ ستم ڈھایا ہے قبر میں مادر حسنین کو تڑپایا ہے زہر خرموں میں میرے مولا کو پلوایا ہے جسد پاک سے مزدوروں سے اٹھوایا ہے روتی تھی زہرا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر یا ابن الزہرا السلام ہے میرے مظلوم غریب الغربا السلام ہے میرے مظلوم غریب الغربا السلام ہے رسن و جور میں پابند جفا السلام ہے شرف باب ہوائج مولا الوداع سرور و ریحان کے مولا آقا دیتے ہیں پرسا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر یا ابن الزہرا یا موسیٰ بن جعفر سیدی مولا 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 سیدی مولا
السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم نبی اللہ، السلام علیکم حبیب اللہ، السلام علیکم یا خیرت اللہ، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکم یا عبد اللہ، السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم وعلی جدک وابیک وعلی امک واخیک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ زیارت امام موسیٰ الکاظم۔ السلام علیکم یا ولی اللہ وابن ولیہ، السلام علیکم یا حجت اللہ وابن حجتہ، السلام علیکم یا صفی اللہ وابن صفیہ، السلام علیکم یا امین اللہ وابن امینہ، السلام علیکم یا نور اللہ فی ظلمات الارض، السلام علیکم یا امام الہدی، السلام علیکم یا عالم الدین والتقی، السلام علیکم یا خازن علم النبیین، السلام علیکم یا خازن علم المرسلین، السلام علیکم یا نائب الاوصیاء السابقین، السلام علیکم یا معدن الوحی المبین، السلام علیکم يا صاحب العلم اليقين السلام عليك يا عيبة علم المرسلين السلام عليك أيها الإمام الصالح السلام عليك أيها الإمام الزاهد السلام عليك أيها الإمام العابد السلام عليك أيها الإمام السيد الرشيد السلام عليك أيها المقتول الشهيد السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا قريب الغرباء ومعين الضعفاء والفقراء السلام عليك شمس الشموس وانيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توسلي ابن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان السلام عليك شريك القرآن عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وانصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.